will receive this ticket on our end and forward it to the appropriate person to help you reconcile your ticket. You can also get back to the screen if for some reason you may have accidentally said no. Go ahead and check yes, and then click Save and Continue. One quick note, there is a box that will open up all of those service codes that are in each workforce section if you need to reference them inside of the survey. Save and continue. We're moving on to question 2. Did any of your vendor IDs change after initial validation in the provider directory? If yes, select each vendor ID that changed and tell us the new vendor IDs and service codes. You will be provided a list of your vendor IDs that were validated in fiscal year 24-25. These auto-populate for you. You do not need to type anything in there. If none of them transitioned, go ahead and select this box and click Save and Continue. If you do need to select one because something about it changed, you will select it and a text box will open. Please fill in the text box according to the directions in the example. Perhaps you have the original vendorization and then you have a new vendorization. Sometimes they're split into two. Feel free to explain that in the box below. If you select this box, this text box is required to be filled. If it was an accident, you just unclick. Click Save and Continue. This is a forced response question, so if you do not answer the question, you will be prompted to answer it before moving forward. Question 3, is your agency an individual provider or provider agency? We provide definitions of these two terms. Feel free to choose which version is yours. If you still do not know after reading the definition, feel free to click Don't Know. Only one of these options can be selected. And then click Save and Continue. Question 4A. Across all services and supports, which languages do you offer services in? Check all that apply. You may also select Other. If you select Other, a text box will open. This box is required if you select it. We will select a couple of them. Question 4B, do you have individuals that you are unable to serve in their preferred language without using interpretation services? If you select yes, and then Save and Continue, you will see question 4C. For individuals you are unable to serve in their preferred language, what are their preferred languages? Check all that apply. The same text feature here for Other is available on this question as well, and it is required if you check it. Click Save and Continue. At this point, you will see a screen with something called a response summary for your agency profile. Please review your responses below. To make changes, click the back button to return to previous questions. We provide a warning here. Once you click Save and Continue, you will not be able to go back to this section of the survey. If you need help changing your responses after clicking Save and Continue, please submit a help desk ticket and an administrator will help you. You can submit a help desk ticket at any time using this hyperlink or this bottom button below. They both go to the same place. Read through your response summary and ensure all of your responses are correct. Then select this radio button. I have reviewed my responses above, and I am ready to continue to the next section. Click Save and Continue. You will then come to the active vendorization screen, where we will walk you through the definition of this term. This part of the survey asks multiple questions about active vendorizations. So what is an active vendorization? An active vendorization is how a specific regional center vendors your agency to provide services. Every active vendorization includes information about the regional center, your specific vendor ID, and then one service code. active vendorizations are approved to provide services to individuals at a given regional center and excludes closed vendor IDs that have been deactivated by the regional center. In this part of the survey, you will answer questions about all active vendorizations between July 1, 2024 and June 30th, 2025. Here is an example of a fake active vendorization. We have Alta California Regional Center, vendor ID AB1001, and service code 910. No action is needed on this page. Click Save and Continue. Next, you will see the table below shows your specific active vendorizations during the fiscal year 2024-2025. This information is auto-populated from purchase of service data and listed here for your convenience. In this part of the survey, you will answer a set of questions about each active vendorization. In this version, you will answer this section 3 times, once for each active vendorization. This is not real data, so this will be updated for your specific vendor. If your vendor has 10 active vendorizations, this number will display 10, and you will have a set of 10 below. In addition to listing them, they also list their status in this survey. You will see that set 1 is set ready to start. Set 2 and 3 are not yet started. After each set of questions, you will return to this active vendorization table to track your progress towards completing all questions about active vendorizations. Then you get to question 5. Is the information in the table above correct? Please review carefully. You may select yes or no. If you select no and then save and continue, you will see another text box with similar directions as a previous question. Please tell us which active vendorization information is incorrect. Be as specific as possible. DDS staff will contact you to help correct your active vendorization information. Do not continue the survey until the information is corrected. If you navigated to this page in error, click back to return to the previous page. You can type in whatever you'd like here, expand it if necessary, and click Submit Ticket. If you do not click Submit Ticket and you stay on this page, we will not receive a ticket and we will not know that you need help. If you receive this in error, go back, change your answer to yes, and then click Save and Continue. This is your first question about this specific active vendorization. It will be listed in the table above a question. Question 6A, did the active vendorization stop accepting new service referrals due to inadequate staffing? There is a definition on the page. If you have questions about this definition or any definition, please submit a help desk ticket and someone will assist you. Please select yes or no. If you select yes and then save and continue, you will see question 6B. Please select which months during fiscal year 2024-2025 that this active vendorization stopped accepting new service referrals. Please check all that apply. So you'll see you can check as many months as you would like. Then you also see question 6C. This is an optional question. Tell us more information about the months this active vendorization stopped accepting new referrals. You can leave this box blank if you would like, or feel free to type in information. Click Save and Continue. Question 7. During the month of September 2025, where did your agency provide services for this active vendorization? This is a check all that apply question. We have provided definitions for each of the options. Please read through them and choose which ones fit your agency for this active vendorization best. We have community-based services, site-based services, and other means of services. We are going to select all 3 for this demonstration. You may choose whatever would ones match your active vendorization. If you choose the other field, a text box will open and it will be required to answer. Put in whatever you would like to describe your situation. Then click Save and Continue. If you selected site-based services, you will see question 8A. Below is the service address on record in the provider directory. If this address is the location of your site-based services during September 2025, please confirm this information. This information is auto-populated for you, and it will be customized to your agency. Is this service information correct? Please select yes or no. If you select no, a text box will open. You may type in anything you would like. Once you click Save and Continue, you will continue on in the survey. You will not be paused. You can keep going. Or you may select yes, no text box, and click Save and Continue. Question 8B, for this active vendorization, you selected community-based services as how services are delivered to individuals. Please select all cities where you provided services to individuals during September 2025. If you have zip codes that are served outside of this catchment area, such as courtesy vendorizations with other regional centers, please list in the box provided at the bottom of this question. This is a check all that apply question. This active vendorization had Alta California Regional Center listed, and this active vendorization covers the following counties and cities for this catchment area. Each city also lists the corresponding zip codes. I'm going to scroll down the list to show you how long it may be. You have a couple of options. If you know that you serve all of these zip codes in all of these counties, you only need to check this first button, and it won't allow you to check anything else. If you do need to customize by county, check each one that you serve. If there is one not listed, you may check other and fill out whatever zip codes are left. If I scroll down at the bottom, let's say you serve a zip code outside of these counties. Please list any other zip codes outside of this catchment area, and there's an open text box with a box you can expand for as many zip codes as you like. Then you're going to click Save and Continue. Listed below are all of your active vendorizations again. This is now an updated table. You just completed set 1. You are now at set 2. Please see below for an updated status. Set 1 is complete. Set 2 is highlighted and set ready to start. Click Save and Continue, and you will move on through the process just as before for each one. Clicking Save and Continue every time. Once you have exited all of the active vendorizations, you will see this screen. All questions under agency profile are now complete. Next, you will move on to questions about your workforce, including tenure, turnover, vacancy, and salary or wages. These questions are organized into 3 different sections, and my colleague, Julia, will walk through each of these sections. There's also a reminder about data reporting. You will click Save and Continue and move on. All right, I am going to stop my share and hand the mic over to Leah.
Thank you, Ashley. Hello, everyone. I will be walking you through the workforce characteristics sections. So everyone will be completing the agency profile that Ashley walked through, but not everyone will be completing all of the workforce characteristics sections. This depends on your service codes and the type of staff you have. You will be shown a table that gives a summary of the different sections. Each section will be clearly identified. The title will list the workforce type, and the background color will change to let you know which section you are completing. At the beginning of the section, there is also a table that summarizes what you are completing and the status for those sections. It will show you the service codes and the vendor IDs that you will be answering questions for, and tell you if that part is started, complete, or not yet started. You will hit save and continue. And the first question is about your staff type, whether or not your staff were payroll employees, or if you used exclusively contract or 1099 employees in that fiscal year. If you did not have any payroll employees and everyone was contract or 1099, you will click yes and save and continue. And then you are done with that section. You will be shown a summary of your responses, and you can click save and continue to move to the next part of the survey. If you hit that by mistake, you can always go back and correct your response. And if you do have staff on payroll, you will say that no, your staff was not all contract, and click save and continue. If you did have staff on payroll, you will have 7 additional questions to answer about those staff. We have questions about the number of staff you had, if they were full-time or part-time. We have questions about salary. And so before you move into that part of that survey, it would be helpful to get information about your staff. So you can see from this question, if you had 2 employees, it would be easy to answer this. But if you have 5 or more employees, it can be a little more challenging to keep track of all of them, how much they're paid, when they started. And so we've created a tool to help you manage that. We have a spreadsheet that will help you track all of your employees and the information that you will need for this survey. And just checking, can everyone see the worksheet? Thumbs up. Okay, great. So the first column is for staff. You can list their names, their initials, or assign them a number or code, whatever is easiest for you to help you keep track of who that person is. Then you will indicate what type of staff member they are, if they are a direct support professional, if they provide professional services, or if they provide transportation services. Next, we will ask if they are full-time or part-time. We will ask for their start date and their separation date. And we have definitions for all of those terms. A full-time employee is one who is regularly scheduled to work 35 hours or more per week, and that is a 1.0 full-time equivalent. This includes both salaried and hourly staff, regardless of whether they are eligible for benefits or not. A part-time employee is an employee who is regularly scheduled to work fewer than 35 hours per week, so less than 1 FTE. And again, this includes both salaried and hourly staff. You will also be asked to report how long your employees were employed at your agency. And when we say continuously employed, we mean that that staff member stayed the entire length of time without leaving your agency. So let's say you had someone who worked for your agency for 6 months and then needed to leave over the holidays and was rehired in February. We would not count those first 6 months. We would only count from February onward. Okay. So in addition to information about what type of employee they are, we will ask you to report on wages, both the starting wage and their hourly wage. And here this can get a bit tricky. So we are asking for starting hourly wage, and that refers to the hourly pay that a new staff member receives when they start a position at your agency. Hourly wage refers to the current hourly amount of pay that they are receiving. If you have your staff pay noted weekly, yearly, or monthly, that will need to be converted to hourly, and our tool will help you with that as well. So we have on the first page, there are instructions and a calculator to convert salary into hourly. You can start by saying if the salary is annual, monthly, or weekly. Let's say it's annual. And we know that the person receives, say, $30,000 annually, and they work 35 hours a week. And this calculator will automatically convert that to an hourly wage for you. You can do the same with monthly or weekly. And this number you will then copy into the salary section on the spreadsheet. You can copy paste directly into here for every employee. And while we have individual salaries listed on this spreadsheet, the survey asks you for the average starting wage for your employees. By average starting wage, we mean the average hourly wage paid to all new staff hired during the fiscal year 24-25. We also would like to know the average hourly wage, so the average current hourly wage for all DSPs, not just those who were new in this year. If you have only 2 staff members, that is easy to calculate manually. You would add the 2 wages. So if we have one staff member who earns $20 an hour, another one who earns $25 an hour, we would add those. And that brings us to $45. We then divide that number by the total number of staff for an average wage of $22.50 an hour. And again, this is simple if you have 2, maybe 3 employees, but can be more challenging if you have 5 or more. For those instances, the tool is once again helpful. It will auto-calculate this averages for you. Once you've entered information on this spreadsheet, it will populate a tab at the end that gives you the information that you can put directly into the survey. So here you will see the average starting wage is already populated and the average hourly wage. So you don't have to do any calculations if you use this spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet is for your internal use only. You don't upload this, you don't share this with DDS or with anyone else. It's just to help you complete the survey. Okay. So once you've filled out the spreadsheet and have the summary information, you can go back to the survey and enter your information. So we're going to walk through the next few questions, assuming that we are a provider who has 2 DSPs employed. We will say that we had 2 of them at the start of the fiscal year, but 1 person left, so we were down to 1 DSP at the end of the fiscal year. The next questions about the staff being full-time and part-time is specific to the end of that fiscal year. So on June 30th, 2025, we only had 1 employee, and that DSP was a full-time DSP. Question 12 asks about how long they were continuously employed. And remember, that means how long they had been with our agency. I can reference my spreadsheet, and it will tell me which numbers to enter here. This staff member had been employed for 2 years, so we would list them here. And a note that for this question, for question 12, but also for question 11, the total must answer to the number, add up to the number that you entered on question 10. And we'll tell you right here on question 10, you had one employee on this date. Whatever numbers you list in this question must add up to that number. Question 13 asks for the average starting wage. And this is the number that the spreadsheet calculated for you. So you can copy that in here directly. Question 14 asks for average hourly wage. Again, we can copy that from the spreadsheet. Question 15 asks about vacancies, both full-time vacancies and part-time vacancies. If you did not have any vacancies at the end of the fiscal year, you can just leave those numbers as 0. If you did have vacancies, you can enter the number there. And lastly, question 16 asked about any staff who left or separated from your agency permanently during the fiscal year. By permanently separated, we mean staff who were removed from payroll for any reason, whether that was voluntary or involuntary. However, there are some situations that we do not want you to include in here. For example, if you had a DSP who was promoted within your agency, let's say they moved into a supervisor position, do not count them in this number of left or separated. If you have someone who moved from one position to another, even a lateral move within your agency, don't count them here. And do not count any staff who left and then came back. And do not count contract or 1099 employees here. If you had no one who separated, you enter 0. Let's say we had one person who separated. We will then click Save and Continue. And we receive a summary page that shows us all of our responses for questions 9 through 16. If you notice that there is a mistake, you can always go back and edit your responses. But if everything looks good, you hit Save and Continue. This will take you to the next workforce section. And you'll notice that the color changed. It went from blue to purple, and that's a visual cue for us that you completed one section and have moved on to another. You will see the same table that summarizes the workforce sections, which ones you've completed, which one you're about to start, and which you have not yet started. You will go through the same process for professional services staff and for transportation staff. For the purposes of this webinar, I'm not going to go through all the questions again. They are exactly the same, just for a different workforce type. So I will move through the survey quickly for demonstration purposes. Once you have completed all of your assigned workforce sections, you will have an opportunity to provide feedback. If you have comments, suggestions, other feedback you want to share with us, there's an opportunity to do that here. This is not a required question. You can leave it blank and continue. Before submitting your responses, you will be asked to certify that the information you provided is true to the best of your knowledge. You can click yes, I certify this information is correct, and then submit the survey. If you do not click yes, you will not be able to submit. Once you submit, it will give you a message letting you know that your information has been collected, and once again show you your key agency information. And you will receive a confirmation email saying that your responses were submitted and giving you information about who to contact if you need to edit your responses or if you want a summary of them.
Thank you so much, Ashley and Julia, for that very thorough walkthrough. We hope that was helpful for you all and gave you some context of what to expect with this survey. So here on this slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about eligibility and how program rates are going to be determined. So along with completing this survey, service providers must be compliant with state standards for vendorization prior to receiving their full QIP rate. It's also required that all service providers must be validated in the provider directory by October 30th. If you are not, you will not be sent the opportunity to complete the QIP surveys and will not get your full rate beginning July 1st, 2026. So your information listed in the provider directory is how we will send you direct links to take the surveys. In addition to that requirement, if your service requires you to be using electronic visit verification or EVV, it is required that you are registered in the Cal EVV or approved alternate EVV platform, or that you have an exemption from your regional center as to why it is you don't have to be doing EVV. If your service requires you to be compliant with the HCBS settings final rule, that you've had a review from your regional center and you've been determined initially to have met compliance. And if you are required to have an independent audit based on how much you earn, you will need to have had that annual audit completed in order to be eligible for your full QIP rate. For more information on these eligibility requirements, we will put the link to the directive explaining more about that in the chat for you. This directive has links to the web pages and citations about each requirement with more information about what's required of you in order to be determined compliant in these areas. I've seen a lot of questions come up around these. Next slide. So once surveys have been completed and the department has confirmed compliance with the areas that we just reviewed, DDS will calculate the provider's rate and send that to the regional center to implement those rates beginning July 1st of next year. Again, the goal here is data collection. If you are compliant with existing standards and you complete your applicable surveys, you will earn your full QIP rate. Next slide. So this has been a lot of information in a short amount of time. For each QIP measure, our team has developed and will be very soon posting online resources aimed to help you better understand what is needed in order to get your QIP rate. And they're designed to walk you through the survey and data collection process. I think both Ashley and Julia already went through some of these, but we have fact sheets available. This is essentially a differently laid out version of the directive. It has everything you need to know from the directive, what's required of you, plus a few connecting resources and information as well. We have FAQs for each measure, where we'll be pulling questions that we've received via email as well as during past meetings with the community. We'll also be adding questions received from this training and our other trainings and update our FAQs online with that information. We have worksheets that are going to help you as a provider gear up to input data into Qualtrics, into these survey platforms. As a provider, you're still going to have to one by one fill out details using your unique survey link, but you can download a worksheet to fill out and help you gather all of your information into one place and then be able to more seamlessly input that information into the survey platform. We also have trainings happening on each topic, which will be recorded, are being recorded, and will be posted online, along with a shorter recording of the walkthrough piece of the survey, as UC Davis demonstrated for you here today. Along with that recorded walkthrough, we are also going to have user guides, which will step by step walk you through the process of data collection and include screenshots of the platform. We encourage you to have this up as you go through the survey. Everything that will be asked of you in the survey is listed in those user guides along with within the worksheets. So we hope that with all of these resources, it will feel very easy for you to complete these surveys and to earn your QIP rate. Next slide. So now we're going to do a live Q&A, and I have, I think Josh is going to help us do that.
Thank you, Susie. Thanks everyone for making it all the way through the live demo, and we'll go ahead and answer as many of the questions as we can that are in the Q&A, but I do see that we have a lot. And so just an encouragement, reminder, for those of you that are used to using Zoom or have been on these group webinars before, if you see your question that somebody else may have asked in the open questions section of the Q&A, if you can just thumbs up that particular question, that'll help us be able to see that question a little bit clearer. So the more thumbs up a question has, the more it rises to the top. And then we'll be able to prioritize those. For those questions that we can't answer, and we have about 20 minutes or so, a little over that, to answer the questions, we will use those questions to inform our FAQ, or frequently asked questions document, which is posted on the QIP webpage. And the link to that is in the chat, and I can post that in there again as well. So I'll go through these questions. We'll answer as many as we can, and then Shirley, who is one of the QA managers here and has been instrumental in developing this, will be able to help us answer some of these questions, along with UC Davis, who developed a lot of that survey tool that we saw earlier and kind of walked us through that. So I'll just kind of start from the top, and we'll work our way down and answer these as a panel. Starting off, can you please repeat the cutoff days for new providers? Shirley, you want to take this one?
Sure. I believe the cutoff days that we're referring to are the ones that became a vendor after July 1st, 2025, but feel free to correct me if that's not the case.
Yeah, sure. So new providers, the way that we're defining them for the QIP is this. Today, and just to specify, today's training is actually for existing providers, meaning those that provided services during fiscal year 24-25. So that is July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. So that's fiscal year 24-25. We will have additional information and an additional training specifically for new providers later on. So that information will be sent to all providers who have their information in the provider directory, and we will be notifying all new providers, meaning those that were vendored after July 1st, 2025, information on those trainings and on that reporting measure. All right, moving on to the next one. What if we are currently a sole provider, but then planning on hiring later on in the near future?
Thanks, Courtney. I think this question's from Courtney. We're only focused on service authorizations that occurred during fiscal year 24-25. I think it's great if you plan on hiring again in the near future, but you won't have to report on any services that occurred outside of fiscal year 2024 through 2025.
All right, thank you. Next question. Do languages on this survey, I assume, include those services that we use a regional center's vendor interpreters company to provide the service? So in other words, does it include those where a different vendor or interpretation service is actually providing that service?
If your agency is consistently using the interpreters to provide the services, then please do include those languages that services are being provided in when you get to that question in the survey. However, if it is not being consistently used, then please answer with respect to what languages your agency can provide services in.
Next question. In order to click additional languages, does that mean all staff must speak the secondary language, or is it acceptable if just a few do?
This is a great question. If if your agency is able to deliver services in that language, please include that language in your response.
Thank you. Next question. Should we include active vendor numbers for programs not included in the rate study, i.e. 094?
Thanks. I think this question's from Lindsay. For the direct services professional portion of the survey, yes, please continue to report on DSP workers in your agency. It's in that section, we are thinking about how you're reporting on staff, all DSP staff as a whole for the agency. And so it makes sense to include 094 if you have DSPs under that service code, even if 094 is not part of the rate reform.
All right, I'll take the next one. Will the presentation be emailed for reference? Just generally overall for this training, yes, we'll be, well, not necessarily email, but we will be posting this presentation online along with a Spanish translation online. Apologies that we do not have the translated Spanish slides today yet, but we will very soon, and those will be posted on the stakeholder events page along with a recording of this training. For additional context, we're also going to have a survey walkthrough video, and that'll be much shorter than the recording of today's meeting or today's training. And that other video, that shorter walkthrough of the survey, will essentially mirror the user guide. So you should be able to watch both that video and follow along with the user guide, and that should give very clear instructions about how to complete the survey. Moving on to the next question. For question 4B, is this a capacity question or yes, no question? I don't have the survey up in front of us, but
Josh, I can take this one.
Sure, go ahead, Shirley.
Yeah, Mike, I think you raise an important distinction. For this question, we want your answer to reflect what language the services are delivered in. It sounds like you're primarily you're providing services in English. So English would be the answer to select.
Okay. For service code 116, vendors will have the 10% apply to both the professional and assistant rates. I guess the question is, will the 10% apply to both the professional and assistant rates for the 2026-2027 fiscal year? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the distinction between professional and assistant rates. Maybe this is a subcode question or subcode information, but should you participate, Rebecca, should you participate in the provider capacity survey for service code 116, the rate would be earned fully for all service authorizations through 116.
Thank you. When asked about which regional center, do we only provide the parent regional center or all the regional centers?
Hi, Vincent. I think this question is about perhaps like the geography, the zip code question. We will be showing the regional center that created the service authorization. So when you answer the subsequent question on it, you will see the regional center and the vendor ID and the service code that we'd like you to be thinking about. And so if you have a if you had an active service authorization during fiscal year 2024 through 2025, then the regional center will be included.
Sorry about that. Next question. Will we be notified if we do or do not meet the standards for the 10% QIP? And I assume by standards, we're talking about requirements. Or will we find out when our e-billing is less than 100% of the rate? All right, I think I can go ahead and answer this one. Basically, so the requirements are clearly laid out both in the directive as well as in the information that we shared earlier today. It's in the FAQs, et cetera. And then, of course, on the slides that we'll have posted on the website from today's meeting as well. But essentially, yes, you can check on whether or not you meet the standards or the requirements by contacting your regional center. And the requirements that we discussed earlier in the presentation were EVV. So essentially making sure that you meet the requirements for EVV, HCBS, and then independent reviews or audits. So our recommendation is really check with those programs. What we here on the QIP team will be doing is checking in February. So at the end of February, we will be checking to see which providers have completed all of their requirements or are eligible or able to get 10% of their rate. So we will be checking in at the end of February, but you certainly have from now until then to check with your regional center and to get in compliance if you have not already done so. All right, next question. Can we get a list of these questions, meaning the survey, I believe, beforehand so we can be prepared when we open the survey, please?
Yeah, we're gonna have a user guide that's going to have step-by-step instructions, including screenshots of those questions. I would strongly recommend using that user guide to look at those questions and treat that like the list that you're looking for, Tiffany.
Okay, next question. Why is the definition of FTE at 35 hours per week? In past DSP workforce surveys, providers identified in questions 30 and 31 the distinction between full-time and part-time and minimum hours per week to be considered full-time. That hour threshold was determined by the provider, could be as low as 30 or 32 hours, depending on benefit eligibility. 35 hours is arbitrary, and that question would skew things considerably if using this data in juxtaposition or correlation with past submissions by vendors that participated in the DSP workforce surveys in years past.
We will have to do a little bit more looking into this question unless UC Davis has an answer here.
No, I think we will need to consult. The 35 hours is considered kind of standard for full-time, but if vendors are saying that they use a different definition, we can consult between our teams and make that change if we need to.
I'd also like to add for Mike here that we don't have benefit eligibility questions. So I know in the past the DSP workforce surveys have asked about a variety of employee of benefits that are offered to employees by the agency. We don't have those questions in here. And so just kind of want to point out that distinction between 30, 32, or 35 hours is a little bit different.
Thank you both. I'll also add real quick that the DSP workforce survey, which I'm assuming a number of providers that may be on this call have completed in the past, is different from the survey that we are doing this year. The survey that we've designed for this year of the QIP and most probably going forward as well is actually a much shorter version of that DSP workforce survey. So the questions have changed. Some of the responses have changed. It is not the same. And so as you look into the user guide and the worksheet, et cetera, that'll inform a little bit of how you can prepare to answer this survey, but we think it'll be a smooth process and in fact an improved process over the DSP workforce survey. All right. Let's see, next question here. Can we complete the survey without using the spreadsheet? We have more than 150 staff, and to input information on each employee on such a granular level is not practical. We have internal processes that can provide average wage data, length of service, etc.
Mark, absolutely. You do not need to use the helper spreadsheet if you have a better internal process in place. The spreadsheet is a new feature, but it's not required. I'd say if your agency has a way to calculate the information, please continue using that process and input your responses into the survey.
Thank you. Next question. Will there be an option to have a template type version of the survey? As some of this info may come from many different sources within an organization, being able to see all the questions prior to getting into the response portal would be helpful.
Hi, Lindsay. I'm going to point out again the user guide. I think it's a great tool that we have this year for showcasing how the questions will look, explaining more what terms mean. And so that would be the closest approximation to a template or a preview for the list of survey questions. And that will be posted on our QIP website very soon.
All right, next question. If we are already getting the QIP, and I assume we are talking about the QIP rate here, is doing this survey just the requirement to keep that QIP, or is there a new rate we are going to get?
This is a new survey, and if you currently have the QIP, it is effectively good through the end of the current fiscal year. So fiscal year 25 through 26. The new survey, this provider directory survey that we have here, it is for the future fiscal years QIP rate. So we are talking now about 2026 through 2027 QIP rate. You'll want to participate in this survey if you can.
I'll also add that the way that the QIP is designed, and I would encourage folks to read up on the program, again, on the QIP webpage. We have a lot of information there about what this program is and how it was developed and how we determined these reporting measures. But just to further add on to what Shirley mentioned, the QIP is an annual portion of the rate that providers need to earn. And those of you that have your QIP rate now, by registering and validating your information in the provider directory, have that through fiscal year 25-26, if you've done that and if you've been eligible for that rate. And so what we are doing here in this survey, in the provider capacity survey, is actually reporting on your activities or on the services you provided in fiscal year 24-25. And by doing that reporting, you actually earn your rate or your QIP rate for fiscal year 26-27. So just want to clarify that it's really not about necessarily keeping your rate per se, but it's about earning your rate for the next fiscal year. And we do that simply through reporting. So as Susie mentioned and emphasized earlier on in the presentation, really the way that you're earning your rate through the QIP is really by reporting the data. It is not by meeting any certain benchmarks or any particular targets. It's really the act of submitting your information in this survey completely and accurately. All right, going to the next question. What if we need to stop and fill out the survey in multiple sessions? How do we access the saved semi-filled document?
The Qualtrics survey will save your work. This is it's a web-based survey. So wherever you are in the survey, if you need to step away, it will save your work. And anytime you want to return to the survey, go ahead and open your email. that includes the survey link and click on the survey link. In terms of the other helper spreadsheets, UC Davis can weigh in on this, but I believe those are things that you can download and work offline for however long you need.
That's all correct, Shirley. So the survey platform, as long as you click save on an actual screen, that question will be saved. So if you stay on a screen and you don't click the save button, you will lose that data when you click the link again. So if you're unsure, just pause yourself by clicking save and continue. And then the helper spreadsheets, those are your own documents that you will download off of the website. I believe it will be in the form of an Excel file, and that will be up to you to save it on your desktop or a shared drive somewhere that is protected in any way you please.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Shirley. Next question. And I see two of these questions actually, so it seems like a popular one. For those administrators who are direct, meaning 75% or higher direct, and by direct, I think we're talking about providing direct support or services, how do we classify them? I think the question is as DSP or as administrator.
So for this year's provider capacity survey, the administrator should be included in reporting for the section on DSP professionals and, well, for really any of the sections on workforce, reporting on your workforce, reporting on your staff. We don't distinguish this year. We are not distinguishing between folks that are administrators, like managers, versus not.
Okay, thank you. Next question, which or what providers are exempt from EVV? Susie, would you like to take this one?
I was going to say I can maybe jump in here. I'll also put a resource into the chat for you all. It's our EVV webpage, but there are lists there, reasons why a provider might be exempt. There's a directive about it. But essentially EVV is for those personal care and home health care services that require an in-home visit by a provider. And so if you don't meet that definition, or there's a other reason why you might be exempt, there's more about that information online. I'll put it into the chat.
Thanks, Susie. Next question. What will this information be used for?
Primarily, or as a first goal, this information will be used to determine your participation in the survey will be used to determine how much of the QIP rate, up to 10%, for fiscal year 2026 through 2027. A secondary goal is to help us understand, to help the department understand the different provider types and workforces that are used to staff the agencies. And then separately, some of the agency characteristics like zip code, languages that services are being offered in. That is information that we would like to one day include in the provider directory as a way to better understand where we have capacity in our system and potentially gaps.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next question. With respect to QIP eligibility, meaning EVV, audit submission, and HCBS compliance, will the provider directory indicate that a provider completing that survey has met those, is lacking those, and or provide a place to submit those? Will the regional center associated with the provider have access to the provider directory to validate or confirm compliance? All right. It's a good question. Go ahead, Shirley.
At the current time, we do not have a place in the provider directory to distribute this information. Erin, if you're on, maybe you can share whether the enhancements to the provider directory might have a field like this.
Or including the different languages and some of the information that we're collecting?
Mm-mm. We're actually, providers are interested in knowing if they are meeting the compliance requirements for EVV, for audits, and HCBS. So can there be a place in the provider directory that lets them see this information?
The intent is to build that out. We currently do not have that in the system, but we will be looking to add functionality for regional centers to check those boxes as the compliance for those 3 different requirements are met. Of course, if you're not one of the service codes that falls under the electronic visit verification, then that would not be an option for you. It would be an NA. But for the independent audit or review and HCBS compliance, we're looking to have that as part of the provider directory in the future.
All right. Just calling attention to the time. We have about 3 minutes left, so we'll try to make it through 1 or 2 more questions. And then, as I mentioned earlier, those that we don't have a chance to answer here will inform the frequently asked questions or FAQ document that is live online right now, I believe, but we will continue to add relevant questions that we hear and provide clarity there. So please keep your eye on that webpage as we continue to add more resources and more information and answer the questions that you've given us here. So just 1 or 2 more questions and then we will need to adjourn. But the next question is this, rather a comment. And I think I saw a couple of these comments really about the full-time employee designation. So I'll just read this one off and we'll go to the next one. But the IRS and ACA define full-time as 30 hours per week. And that is the guideline that we have always used. So 1 comment there, but I've also, as I mentioned, seen 1 or 2 more reflecting something similar. Okay, next question. I have a question about the vacancies. We are always open to hiring if therapist applies. We don't have a capacity limit, even when we were quite large at 15 to 20 therapists per department. How should we answer those questions?
This is an interesting scenario. We typically think about vacancies as positions that have been opened, positions that have been posted and open to recruitment. So like actively recruiting. For your agency, I think you'll have to answer in a way that makes sense to you, in terms of how many full-time vacancies you felt you had during fiscal year 24-25. Without knowing how many official posted positions were out there for your agency, it's going to be a little tough for us to affirmatively help you answer this. We're open to talking through the scenario if that's helpful. Somewhere there's an email for you to submit a question to us at QIPquestions@dds.ca.gov.
All right, thank you everyone for staying. Erin, we may have just a couple of seconds to answer another question if you would like to.
Yes, thanks, Josh. I noticed several questions about the independent audit and reviews and what is considered compliance. I just want to clarify that the way that the statute is written is that the providers have to submit their independent audit or review, depending on what threshold you meet, within 9 months from the close of the organization's fiscal year. So when we check compliance in February of 2026, we're looking to make sure that you've submitted your most recent independent audit and or review, whichever one you fall into. So if you are on a calendar year fiscal year, then it would be calendar year 2024 that we would need to be submitted. So I just want to clarify that because there seems to be a lot of questions around whether or not people are current on their existing audits. And again, those are required to be submitted to the regional center 30 days from completion of the audit review. So hopefully that helps clarify it. So if you're on a calendar year, we would not be expecting calendar year 2025 to be submitted. We would be expecting your most recent independent audit or review.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hopefully this was helpful to you. As we've mentioned a few times, please visit the QIP webpage on the DDS website for information that we have now, as well as upcoming information. Just encourage you to keep on checking that page. We'll have more announcements and more trainings. And those of you that are employment providers, we hope to see you on Friday for the training at 10:30 a.m. If you haven't registered, please do so on the stakeholder events page on the DDS website. Thank you, everyone.